Saul Over Soon.
You're slipping Jimmy. Slipping Jimmy with a law degree is like a chimp with a machine gun.
Who moves cones? Who does that?
Money is not beside the point. Money is the point.
Saul Over Soon.
It's a real thing. I didn't make it up.
You're perfect for each other.
Welcome to Saul Over Soon, a Better Call Saul podcast. That's right, you guessed it. I'm Jamie G. Esquire the Fifth. No, I cannot defend you in the court of law. I'm here with my co-host, Magnum Mills. And we're going to give you our hopes, our predictions, and our theories for the final looming episodes of one of our favorite shows, Better Call Saul.
Oh, this is one of those things where I can stick my fingers in my ear and go this isn't happening. This isn't happening. Oh, probably not. So anyways, thank you. I am Magnum Mills. And look, we're not exactly batting 1,000 on the predictions. That's not really the point though, right? I mean, we do want to be right, but this is just so much fun because despite it being a prequel, there's a ton of things that could happen. So we're going to do our best Ms. Cleo impression. And if you're not of the proper age, you don't know who Ms. Cleo is, it's worth a Google. We are Saul Over Soon. Make sure you're subscribed to us on your favorite podcast app. You can find our YouTube channel at JoeBlowFootballShow.com. You can find us on social media at Saul Over Soon. And if you have any theories you'd like to share with us, any feedback, anything at all, you can send it to sauloversoon@gmail.com.
May it please the court, let the record show that Saul Over Soon is a full spoiler show. Anything, and I mean anything, from Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad, or even El Camino. Shout out Jesse. It's fair game here, folks. If you haven't watched some of those things, you need to go ahead and stop this amazing podcast and you need to go watch them. And don't you worry, we will be here waiting whenever you're ready. This is your first and final spoiler warning.
Pretty simple thing here. We're just going to go character by character, give a little hopes, predictions, theories, all that good stuff. Obviously, we know where a fair amount of these people are going to end up for the events of Breaking Bad. But again, still a bunch of fun to be had. And Jamie G, let's start out with a just kind of random one. Do we see Cliff Main again? Because you kind of wonder, there has to be some fallout from the death of Hamlin, right? Is maybe that's how we see it, because who is left? You kind of feel like there has to be something there still, right? So do we see Cliff Main again?
I think we do, and I think it's directly related to Hamlin. I think maybe Cliff Main buys into Howard's share. Maybe Howard's, wife decides to sell and Cliff buys. I could see something happening with that maybe. But I do think we get Cliff Main throughout the back half here of part 2, season 6.
Ooh, fun theory. Cheryl, Hamlin's now widow, she winds up getting together with Cliff Main's son, who has a problem with the Tokyo or whatever, and they get together. So somehow that's how they have a merger of the firm, so to speak.
There would be a lot of merging in the firm there. I like it.
You're talking Firm-ish, you're talking Tom Cruise, you're talking John Grisham. There's a lot going on there.
That's how we do it right here on Saul Over Soon. Let's check in with our favorite veterinarian. Mills, what's up with Dr. Caldera? Does he live or die? And more importantly, how does Jimmy get his black book?
Yeah, because we saw that there in Wine and Roses, the first episode of season 6. He's got the book. I don't know, man. Dr. Caldera seems like a good dude, right? He loves animals. Even though he's doing this ill shit, he wants to get out. You do have to worry that whenever a character is, this is my last job, or, I'm going to get out after this, it always ends badly. I guess I'll split the baby here. I say Jimmy pays him for the black book, but then when Caldera's on his way out, somebody murks him and takes the money.
Like it. I think, unfortunately, Caldera, I think he decides to sell the black book, and I just, man, I'm gonna give myself one happy thing here, and I'm gonna say he rides off in the sunset. He finds his true passion, doing what he wants, and he's out. That's where I'm going with this. At least let Dr. Caldera live. We already got to deal with the threat of what's happening with Kim. Let our favorite vet live.
He loves all the letters from and honestly, I've gone through both good veterinarians and bad veterinarians in my life. If you have a pet, having a good vet's really crucial, and he does seem like he is honestly a very good vet. So yeah, I really hope it works out. But again, we got to be a little brutal. I'm trying to think of a more fun one. I don't know. He testifies against somebody, he goes into witness protection, and then works on Animal Planet every year for the puppy bowl.
Oh my God. Or better yet, was he Crazy Steve from Blue's Clues? Like maybe like all that drama with that dude was because he was actually on the run. I mean, who knows? I like it. My handy dandy notepad. And maybe that's where the black book came from. It was his handy dandy notepad.
Does seem kind of handsy, if you know what I mean. And,
It does a little bit, Mills. All right.
sometimes, you know, as long as it's consensual, and it's
as long as it's consensual and legal, and everyone's okay. Dude, do you love Dr. Kildare? Like, this was a great kind of way to put something. He's not like the ultimate fixer or anything, but I really like this character, and I think Better Call Saul needed it bad. Just early on with Mike, and just and even Nacho a little bit, and the guy, the crazy guy with the pills, with the idiot with the baseball cards, like all that stuff. Like, I like this character.
And if you like the idiot with the baseball cards, you should watch What We Do in the Shadows from FX. He plays Colin Robinson. It's a very good time. You'll appreciate it. And speaking of cameos here, I think we're pretty much confirmed to be getting at some point Walter White, Jesse Pinkman, and Hank Schrader. Jamie G, do you think there's any chance those are more than basically we get each of them from one scene? Like, do you think we get any of them from multiple scenes or episodes, and or any of them together, even though that would break things unless it's in a different timeline?
My heart says yes. My brain says no. I'm going to split it in the middle and say yes and no. Okay, do a little psychological warfare on you. I think we get all of them. Not all of them together, but I think we get Walt and Jesse together. But I think it's a forward time flash kind of thing, where
like
instead
El
of
Camino, where you get a different scene from them in Breaking Bad that we didn't see before, kind of deal, basically.
Yeah, I think maybe, and I think it's going to play into something with kind of the end leading up to Breaking Bad, when they all kind of, when Jimmy decides to kind of go his way, and Walt goes his way. I do think we get more than one scene with each of them. I don't have the insight to break that down, but I think we get at least a couple with Walt. I'm hoping a couple with Jesse. And to be honest with you, I'd like to have one or two of Hank. I like Hank. Hank was my guy. I thought Hank was hilarious.
He took one of the most famous dumps in TV history. I'll give him that. And
definitely did.
And they're minerals. They're minerals. You got to also mention that they're minerals. And I don't know, man. I still feel that we're gonna get. At one point I said the whole back half or something. I still feel like we're gonna get, I don't know, at least one episode that's set during Breaking Bad, basically. So what I'm gonna go with is that we see Walt and Jesse together in an episode set during the Breaking Bad timeline, but we get Hank in a scene here in the Saul timeline. And so if we're going forward, I'll go that we get Walt and or Jesse in more than one scene. Hank, I would say, maybe gets a couple scenes in one of the episodes still set in the Saul timeline. Jamie G, do you think we'll get any episodes set entirely in the Breaking Bad timeline?
Throughout the entire episode?
Yep, just one that's just set strictly like in the Breaking Bad timeline.
I want us to so bad, but I don't think they will. I want us to, but I worry that they don't want this show to be Breaking Bad so much, and they've done so much work that they don't have to, that I don't know that they will. But I would love it if they did.
See, I think they've come so far that they've earned it now. Like, if they want to do it, they can do it, and it'll still feel like Saul. Even after, like, right before we started doing this, I went back and tried to watch the first couple of Saul episodes, and it's amazing how well these, like, right now, how that fits. It might be a little bit jarring right to the beginning of Breaking Bad because it starts out a little bit slower, but the way it's ramped, it really, and the way it's shot, it just feels like they are two halves of a whole, and they've come far enough. I think they've earned it, especially because, again, we're down to two characters that are really still in question here, Lalo and Kim. Everybody else, we kind of know where they're going to end up, so it's hard to figure out how, say, Pinkman and Walter would fit in here unless it's somewhere in the Breaking Bad timeline, again, like they did in El Camino, in giving us something that we didn't see before. And there's definitely a way they could do that with a Saul scene somewhere.
Will you be upset if they don't, though, if they incorporate Walt and or Jesse in the Saul timeline. I mean, there's a way in which they could do it. I think to your point, they've earned the right to do it without the fear of it being, just kind of yada 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 or corny or really far fetched. Like they're so clever that it wouldn't surprise me, and I don't know that I would hate it. Like I think I would be okay with it if they did.
Yeah, it's a little rough if you watch the first episode, they interact. He definitely doesn't know who Walt is. Maybe you could play it off if Pinkman was a little younger. You're also going to, I think, run into more problems with having Aaron Paul play young than Cranston at this point, because you'd have to be of Aaron Paul playing like teenage Aaron Paul just about, or pretty close. Like, dude, still like, shout out Westworld season 4 coming up. He's done good work there and everything, but he doesn't look like he's a teenager, and it'd be hard to, it was kind of even hard. It again just looked older in El Camino even. I don't know. I think it makes more sense they split the baby, and I think there's ways that you could maybe enhance Saul's part in Breaking Bad without it being, just a complete homage, jerk off session to Breaking Bad, basically. I don't know. It seems like it'll be hard for him to meet either of them in a certain way in having not recognize him in the future. On the other hand, is it really worth it if he just like walks past Walter White at the grocery store? They could go that route. I would be disappointed if they do that.
Could one of them have an interaction with Kim? I mean, that's something that we,
I
especially
think I
Jesse.
called that at one point, but that was when like Kim was going to get disbarred to have to go teach at the same community college as Walter White. But yeah, something like that could come into play. I would like for them, or Lalo or something. I would love an interesting way to do it. You just know basically that Walt had no connection into that life and had never seen that Pinkman went in that deep. I think that's the cool part though, right? We don't have any idea.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that means the show's doing its job, though. The fact that we're 6 episodes from everything being over, and I quote, Saul over soon, and we don't know. That's pretty freaking rad.
Yeah, I'd say the last one. Do you think we get an entire episode set in the Gene timeline?
I'm going to say they're gonna have to. It's just, for me to do it justice, I really want to see an entire episode of Gene. Like I'm intrigued by that, like the lead up, what's happening, and then ultimately what happens kind of on the end. I think you have to end this story of Saul. You got to go to Gene to kind of get to the ending, I think, right? You almost have to go through Gene to get to the ending, don't you?
It's funny, and I just tried to think about that from an editing standpoint in my head. I'm like, could you somehow put like the death of Saul in the Gene timeline kind of right before like the first scene we ever see him in Breaking Bad or something, and play it off that way and make it kind of a tragic arc? There's probably a way, but again, I'm not going to be satisfied if we just get one scene at the end or something. I would really love a full Gene episode, and especially one that would be cool even if you got kind of how he got integrated, and it starts out kind of in color and then goes the opposite of what it did in the episode 1 here, when it went from black and white to color, and it goes from color back to black and white or something like that. I think that would be cool. I think that's pretty much it on the Breaking Bad of it all, except for, you have Saul, you have Mike, you have Gus. There's not much more that can happen right outside of something has to happen with Lalo, something has to happen with Kim. Is there anything else really to discuss about where those characters could go that's not in relation to those other 2 characters? I mean, we know Saul has to get his caddy at some point, but other than that, and the super lab has to be finished, right? Those are pretty much the 2 things that have to happen. Otherwise, it's all about Lalo and Kim, right?
It has to be. I mean, because we know what's going on with Gus. We know who wins this kind of battle between Gus and Lalo. We just don't know how. So yeah, I'm right there with you. To me, when we talk about Lalo, it's how long does he make it here? And is it possible he's still alive? I mean, what I love what they did with Jimmy not knowing Lalo was alive to end this part 1. We see Saul in the desert and Breaking Bad, and he's like, did Lalo send you Nacho? Talking about Nacho and Lalo. He still doesn't know if he's dead or alive. So I love that we don't know one way or the other, and they're going to make it. But I think he dies. Even if he doesn't die, how long does he make it in the show before he meets his fate? because we know he's not part of Breaking Bad.
All right. Would you be mad if, let's say, in the first episode or two here, we think Lalo's dead, right? And then we get into the final episode or two, and it goes all into the Gene timeline, and somehow that involves like Kim and Gene coming together again at that point, whether she was in jail or somewhere else. We know she's out in that general area, so it is possible. And then like they're finally getting back together and everything's cool. And then fucking Lala Salamanca walks in again after Jimmy thought he was dead. And then that's how they that's how they set up like maybe the end of the penultimate episode or something. And so it's like, damn, we're right back here again.
It would be almost a little too like, but I wouldn't be. But again, this show has earned the right where it's like, okay, if they decide to do that, I trust that it's going to be done very cool and it's going to slap me across the face. And maybe I didn't see it coming, whatever. They've got, I don't want to say they have a kind of a golden parachute here and tickets.
Carte blanche. The phrase you're looking for is carte blanche.
I think they have it.
Again, one of those things you have to fuck up at least 3 times in a row in a major way here. There's really only Lalo and Kim. I guess if they somehow, crash the plane in the mountain on both of them, but considering the history here and the kind of guarded comments that the cast has made, because this has been in the can for a while, so I'm pretty sure, like, I don't think we're looking at, I don't want to spoil any other series, but I don't think, again, we're looking to a, day the music died type of situation. As far as Lalo, I really think either he's done at the end of episode 8 here, I guess it would be episode 1 of part 2, or he makes it until at least the penultimate episode. I don't think he makes it like 2 or 3. I think he's either getting, somehow the resulting of him in Kim and Jimmy here, that ends up in him dying, or he makes it a few episodes at least. I don't think he makes it all the way to the final episode.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think it because there's still.
I want him to.
I want him to too, and maybe he will, but there's still so much of the Breaking Bad Gene timeline that needs to be addressed where I kind of want this storyline, this plot to kind of solve itself before we get to that. I like that concept, Mills, that if he doesn't, if he makes it out of episode 1 or episode 8, 1 part 2 here, he makes it to maybe to I guess 5 episodes in before he's killed again. But they've done this like we saw with Nacho in season 1. He made it episode 3. Now Nacho's not the same character as Lalo, but he's been a character that's been in the show a hell of a lot longer than Lalo. So they've done it before where they've killed people off kind of at random times. So it wouldn't surprise me if they do.
Oh, they just also still have to do 6 more episodes. And I think if you kill him off in 1, I think that means we're getting like a Breaking Bad timeline episode or 2. I think we're getting some other stuff then, because then you're down to just Kim. In how many other people after the Lalo domino falls, what's left that can impact Kim? So as we transition into Kim, I don't even know a nice way to say this, but does she die? And if she does, is Lalo responsible? Does she go? And if so, is he the trigger man, whether it's himself or him ordering it or something?
When we started off season 6, part 1, I felt like Kim had an opportunity to get out of this alive and maybe still with a decent future ahead of her intact. When we finish this, I don't feel like she has the ability to get out of it alive. I think that she dies, and I think that it involves Lalo for sure. And I'm just going to make a bold claim that she sacrifices herself to kill Lalo. She dies saving Jimmy. I think she makes the ultimate sacrifice here, and it haunts Jimmy forever.
Or you can even make the same argument, even if they're together and she gets killed on accident, it would have basically the same effect.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. One question, is there any way that they could do a thing where, like in episode 1 here, Lalo takes Kim out, and then suddenly we go into a Saul revenge thing for a couple episodes where he's actively trying to have to kill Lalo? I mean, that would be wild, right? It'd be way out of... But that would definitely turn Saul into like the dude we see in Breaking Bad who doesn't give a fuck about anything, basically, right?
Yeah, and he's a dude who can do that if need be.
Like he turns his full powers onto Lalo, all of his everything he's learned, his entire skill set, in try to get this dude like works with Mike, whatever, and then that's how they have that closer relationship too. Then we know they obviously have a relationship, but that would cement the trust a little more, I feel.
I like it, Mills. I don't, it's not as far-fetched as it sounds. Kind of like I could actually see a world in which that
That'd
happens.
be wild, right? If Kim dies,
Oh.
fucking the internet's gonna everything is gonna go kablooey.
I mean, and make
That's
no
the
mistake,
technical
people,
term,
I am
kablooey.
still on don't kill Kim. Like I am
But
anti.
we have to talk honestly. We're talking honestly. This is
Yes.
hopes and predictions. I think it's fair. We both hope somehow she winds
Yes.
up in the Gene timeline and they end up happily together, or she even goes off as her own family, or she's just happy.
Yeah.
She's just happy and okay somewhere. That's what I hope. But we're talking our predictions and theories. This is Breaking Bad, right? Like you don't quite get. I mean, I'm trying to even think of the closest thing to a happy ending. I guess that's Pinkman, and that really took a movie after the fact to get him there.
And it was still so much.
And even then, it's a little bit nebulous, right? Like he's just basically like by himself in Alaska or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah, not great, Bob.
Not great, Bob.
I mean, anything. I do like the idea that Kim and Lalo would be tied together, maybe, because that would be kind of definitely narratively interesting. I don't know how you could do it without death, maybe, although Kim trying to like turn the law against Lalo, but I don't know how that would. I don't think the law can really come into like, is there any way, do you think that, because I was trying to say that was I had an idea maybe Hank comes in here.
Well,
that's
law
enforcement can have any way in. My only thought was if we stay long enough in this timeline, Howard Hamlin's dead body is in their condo. Something has to happen from that. So that's I can see maybe law enforcement coming back in on that. And I mean, I don't know, they didn't do it, but they're certainly not going to testify against Lalo, are they?
No, I think they're going to be forced to.
I mean, I guess Kim could if she goes in witness protection, but that would feel kind of like a cop out, right?
Well, but then how does Saul live? I don't think that's.
Well, he would have like not to take the witness protection and not test. I don't know how that would ever work. I'm just trying to throw out
play his cards. I mean, Lalo's not going to
like they're both supposed to get on the plane, and then Saul doesn't. He's like, "I'll fucking deal with it" or something, and then he cuts a side deal with Gus Fring to protect him.
Maybe I'm going with they're going to have to clean up that mess right away, and I'm going with that they basically work for Lalo now, and he's ordering them to clean up this mess.
Oh, like first, yeah, but why would Lalo to cover up his own tracks, I guess, basically.
I mean, get this body out of here. Yeah, because he's still trying to seek his ultimate mission, which is proving Gus Fring did this. I think he's going to try to utilize Jimmy to infiltrate Gus to get something that he needs to go against Gus, is my guess.
All right, so let's be super specific for a second. Like, what is the next scene we see that has at least one of Saul, Kim, or Lalo in it?
I think it's where it's. I want to say
right
they're
back
going to
the
pick.
Apartment. We're still in the apartment.
I think they might have to. That is such a huge thing. How did they? We got to know what happens. You can't just yada 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 that. Like
I'm calling it's Kim or Jimmy. Kim or Jimmy in the cold open, like doing something. And we're trying to figure out how the fuck they're there doing the thing. And we
digging a grave or trying to get rid of.
Or could even be a flashback or a flash forward or something. We won't quite know, but that's what I'm going with it, because we're all looking for maybe the Gene thing, and then it's like maybe it's Saul even in black and white, but it's not Gene or something. I don't know. I think they'll throw us a little bit of a monkey wrench right up front there to keep us guessing what'll happen, because obviously we know nothing can happen to Saul. He's the one golden boy. He can't even really like lose an arm, or you know what I mean? Like he can't even be maimed physically too much.
To just real quick go out on a super happy ending here. When Gene is Gene, and he's working in the mall, and what if somehow, some way, Kim comes into that mall? Would he break what he is as Gene to go to her and risk everything, or would he protect her and deal with the pain of having to have her in front of him and not be able to say anything?
Boy, it's funny because when you set me up, I went a different way, and I picture like he sees Kim and he starts to get so excited, and then he sees her sit down with like her husband and a couple of kids, and it breaks him, and then he decides not to approach them, and that's how it ends. You were doing the Wayne's World happy ending, and I didn't even go to the Scooby-Doo ending. I went to but that feels like kind of apt, right? I don't know, like it feels like that would be more on brand for the show than the happy ending. I'm not sure they can give them the happy ending. I don't know if the show can do the happy ending.
I don't think it can give him the happy ending, because how can he? After everything he's done, how can he get a happy ending? Like he just can't. As much as I love him, don't get me wrong, I want him to have it. Does he really deserve a happy ending?
I mean, I don't know. What if you found out that he actually died at the disappearer killed him, and this is just what hell is? You work at a Cinnabon in fucking Omaha or whatever. Would you be okay with that? Like he's just like you find out at the end, the devil comes in, like, oh no, dude, you're in hell. We're just gonna restart the day again. Have fun at Cinnabon.
Enjoy it. It would weird me. I guess I could.
Yeah,
Like
I mean
it,
that would
but...
be again trying to have a little bit of fun here. On a more, I guess, a little fun note. Say Lalo's got to go. Who would it be most satisfying to see kill him? Like if someone's got to take Lalo out, who would you prefer it would be? And if you want to offer a method, that's cool too.
If it's a revenge thing, Jimmy for sure, right? If Saul, if Lalo takes out Kim, then absolutely I want to see Jimmy and Saul do it. If not, though, dude, I actually would like Nacho's father. I would love Nacho's father to be the one that pulls the trigger somehow, some way. I don't know how they get there, but it would just be the ultimate kind of like
New Jack City shit. That's like, oh shit, it's old man with the gun. Like, sorry, my spoilers for New Jack City, but
yeah, I guess we're spoiling New Jack City
you
too.
get some justice anyway, right? Like,
right.
The dude you wouldn't think that would be. I don't know how he would ever get to that. That's pretty amazing, though. I mean, that would be the other way you can play it, right? We didn't discuss it, but what if to save Jimmy, Kim winds up killing Lalo, and then she goes to fucking jail, and the series ends with Saul going to federal prison to pick her up as she's getting out. Wow. And they kind of like look at each other as she's walking out or whatever for the first time, and that's how it ends.
I would be okay with it, although the only kind of hole I can poke there in the balloon is, can Gene really go back to any part of his former life? I mean, he's basically given up everything to become Gene.
That would be the point of the final shot. Like you just get them, they share a look kind of from opposite ends as you come down that, like, when you get out of jail, everyone always comes down like the long fence thing, and you kind of do the long shot of them kind of looking at each other, and then you just cut.
So you don't really, so it's open to, and I think, so do you think this is going to end with with an open to
I feel like it's more
interpretation,
likely to end with something like that, where it's a little bit ambiguous, than for it to end on like the blood coming out of it, like, it was rats within rats, like, or some departed shit or something. You know what I mean? As cool as that would be for, like, in the end, like, Lalo's like in witness protection and he like flipped on people, and then Saul fucking goes into his house and kills him. That'd be awesome, but that's probably,
But they did end, and this is not a Breaking Bad podcast, but they did end Breaking Bad with a certain degree of finality, right? Like they kind of ended that story, so to speak. And do you think they achieved the same level of ending the story here? Or do you think it's different because it really just feeds into this universal loop into Breaking Bad?
I think they probably should, but I think there will be a temptation to leave a couple of minor doors open just in case someday anyone ever wanted, because it's been such a fun universe, right? The whole Gilligan verse here, and even the people who've worked in it now basically for damn near 2 decades are like a little bit reluctant to give it up, even though they've mined so much fertile territory. And we see what happens when franchises start overextending themselves and everything. So I don't need to know what, like, Walter White did in fucking high school or anything like that. But if they want to leave it open for, 10, 15 years from now, we get some kind of limited edition series where, Aaron Paul and Saul show up and Kim shows up or something. I think they should probably offer a more definitive ending, but if they opt to leave it a little bit open and just leave a crack in the door, I'm not going to be hating.
One last thing for me here. Do you think we get an introduction of any new characters that we have not met yet, that maybe we don't meet in Breaking Bad either?
I don't know. One really fucked up thing would be, I'm trying to think if Todd and Saul ever met. If they didn't meet, it would be funny if just randomly Todd's the one who kills Lalo. Like, see, it was Todd the whole time.
Todd's the worst, isn't he? God.
I mean, Jesse Plemons is fucking awesome. But yeah, I mean, he was such a fucking crazy character. He does get fleshed out a fair amount. Like that, a lot of what makes El Camino worthwhile is probably his performance with Aaron Paul. So that helps a little bit. Yeah, he's fucking creepy, dude. The whole thing with this, yeah, dude, the spider and.
You don't think there's room for one more? I mean, do you think there's 6 episodes left. Do you think just solving Kim and Lalo and picking up the pieces of Howard Hamlin dying plus Gene and Breaking Bad, that's enough, right? For 6 episodes. You don't think there's any new characters that can move some of those plot lines along? I'm going to say we get one new character.
I would say if we get a new character, it's in the Gene timeline. Like a character that matters. I don't know otherwise. I mean, would you count like if Mike gets another kind of random henchman who's in 3 episodes or something? Would that be enough?
I think anybody who kind of plays a big enough role to move the plot forward, and
I would say if
more,
we got like another Salamanca would count. If all of a sudden there's another Salamanca or something,
yeah.
But again, that wouldn't track really. It would be really tough, and if they did, I think it'd have to be like a one-off, like a 1-episode deal where we got introduced to this character and like, oh shit, this guy might be a big deal the rest of the way, and then they don't make it out of the episode kind of deal. I might buy something like that.
That's what makes this so fun. That's why the show is so great. We don't know. They could literally do so many different things. And what's insane about it is we really only have 2 major questions, but yet the possibilities are endless around Kim and Lalo and how this thing comes to a head. I think that's about it for our predictions. Mills, what's coming up next for Saul Over Soon?
Pretty simple here. We'll be back before you know it to cover episode 8 of season 6. That's episode 1 of part 2 there, which will air Monday, July 11th, 2022.
Thanks again for checking us out. We greatly appreciate it. Please remember right now, if you haven't done it yet, take this second right now to like and subscribe. That's all it takes is a second. Like, subscribe on YouTube, or feel free to rate and comment on your podcast app of your choosing. Helps us out a ton. Doesn't mean a lot to you, means the world to us. We really, really appreciate it. Mills, tell these wonderfully fine people where they can find all of our content.
Thank you, fine people. You can find Saul Over Soon on your favorite podcast platform and on social media. That's Saul Over Soon. You can send your feedback to sauloversoon@gmail.com. We're from the Joe Blow Football Show, who you can find at joeblowfootballshow.com and on social media at Joe Blow Show. We are currently covering the 3rd season of The Boys from Amazon on Compound B, a show about the boys. Find us on your favorite podcast app by searching for Compound B. Find us on social media at Compound B Pod. We just wrapped up our coverage of Ozark from Netflix on the Ozark podcast. Same thing on your favorite podcast app and social media. And if you're watching Netflix, you might have noticed they just dropped season 6 of Peaky Blinders. We've already covered that on PvP, a Peaky Blinders podcast on your favorite podcast app and on social media at Peaky Podcast. We are just wrapping up the 3rd season coverage of Barry from HBO. It was a wild ride. Highly suggest you check it out. We are the Barry Podcast on your favorite podcast app and social media. And finally, we will never stop because we are legally obligated to talk about It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia on The Night Pod Cometh. Maybe we're not legally obligated, but we fucking do it anyways. Find us on your favorite podcast platform and social media at Night Pod Cometh. Thank you very much for checking out Saul Over Soon. I'm Magnum Mills. He's Jamie G. And remember to be careful because you're in the game now.
It's Saul Over Soon. We'll see you soon for the final episodes of Saul.
This has been Saul Over Soon, a Better Call Saul podcast. This show is for entertainment purposes only. We are in no way affiliated with Better Call Saul, AMC, Sony Pictures Television, Netflix, or any other production company or association. The views here are those of the hosts only and do not represent any other entity. Thanks again for checking us out, and stay tuned because it's Saul Over Soon.